Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dream Oracle for You. I am your host, Sarah, and we also have a co-host, Biljana, on the call. And today we have a very exciting episode tonight. We're going to talk about nightmares, and we've kind of had a teaser about this episode would be upcoming in past episodes, where we will have my fiance, Timothy Alguire, on to help us talk about nightmares. So before we introduce Timothy, Biljana, do you have anything you'd like to say?
I've been looking forward to this episode for a while. As soon as you said that he might come on and talk about nightmares, I'm like, yes, someone else coming on and it's been something that I've experienced quite a lot. So I'd like to hear what other people experience and get their perspective. So yeah.
Well, Timothy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Timothy. I'm Sarah's fiance. I also do a little YouTube channel. And my earliest recollection of a nightmare, I was about 7 to 8 years old, and it was the first time that I was introduced to the original characters, what I consider like the original five movie monster characters. We're talking Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Dracula, zombies, so on and so forth. Excluding, of course, like Swamp Thing. And I experienced a nightmare that night. It was very profound, and I've remembered it ever since. I'm 37 years old now, so over 30 years ago, or roughly thereof. I have nightmares as quite a regular thing. I don't exactly consider them nightmares anymore because I have grown with them, and I more consider it just another dream. But what I consider a dream nowadays, most people would consider a nightmare.
It's interesting. I like that. Maybe it's because you and yourself, like you're more confident in yourself. So then it's not a nightmare, it's just who you are. And yeah, that's cool. What are you, Sarah? Like,
Yeah,
do you remember?
yeah. I mean, I don't have anything right off the top of my head that's standing out, but I definitely do resonate with the idea that, you kind of evolve as a person, and what may be a nightmare to somebody or to you in a past, like, a number of years ago, may be completely different now that you've changed and grown as a person. And I actually see that in myself recently, where some of my dreams, in a normal circumstance, I would find them to be fearful. I would like wake up in a sweat and everything. But those dreams now, I just kind of shrug them off.
Done that too.
Woke up in a sweat.
I woke up bawling, just sobbing.
Yeah, okay. Very interesting. So,
As I had previously mentioned, my first recollection of a nightmare that really profound to me, my mother had just introduced me to the famous five movie nightmare creature Fuel. And that night I had a nightmare. I was walking through my grandmother's house, which is a very common background in my dreams. And I was in her shed. It's my grandmother's house is very old, probably well over 150 years. Like we're talking like tube and knob wiring and stuff like that. And I was walking through her garage and I was being escorted by Dracula. And every time I turned a corner, I went into a new little part of the garage. There was another movie monster. And one of them, I believe it was Frankenstein, came out from underneath a board and just kind of sombered in. And then as I turned the corner was the Wolf Man, and so on and so forth. And they just basically escorted me through my grandmother's house. As I would be introduced to another one, they would just kind of join the fold behind us, and we would continue walking until we met another one. Very much Wizard of Oz, if you will.
I was gonna say more like Scrooge.
Yeah, the ghosts. Yeah, Christmas past, future, and present. Yeah.
yeah, cool.
So a couple things for me. I don't know if anything came up for you, Biljana, as he was talking about that.
No, you go. No, that's all
Yeah.
right.
So you talked about the movie that you had been watching, and
It
then
wasn't
that,
actually a movie. It was just something that my mother told me about and had images that she could put into my mind of what they looked like and stuff like that. Of course, she could make reference to some of the old movies she had.
Right. But then those images were then used in your dream. They came up in.
They came to life, very much so. Live and breathe in color, and I do dream. I do dream
Yeah.
in color, very
Okay.
vivid color.
Yep. And are you dreaming always in first person, or you're watching yourself,
So
or
funny enough,
both?
when I dream, I'm always in first person. Now I've had instances of over the shoulder and bird's eye view, if you will, but it's always when my attention is being brought to something outside of my normal realm of normal realm of my view or something. Like basically making it more grand to add accent to it, it would like rise above me.
Yeah, that's quite cool. With Sarah, you mentioned, do you do it like have a variation, like your first person watching yourself and then also bird's eye view? I know I've had a variation.
Yeah, I'm almost always like basically how I experience life during waking hours is how I experience in my dreams. It's always from that kind of perspective. Very, very rarely, I think maybe once, and I can't even remember the dream. I just remember that it was more of a third person or a bird's eye type view was what it was. But I'm almost always first person.
Something else
Yeah.
I always notice is when I recall my dreams, they're always in a third person.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's interesting. You writing all these down, Sarah? No.
I'm making a lot of
Definitely
notes.
making notes.
I don't know if the notes make any sense. It might pop up later on in the episode or
A
whatnot.
little bit of a spider web over here right now.
My note taking, not that this needs to be part of the podcast, but my note taking is always kind of abstract, random. I can't just write from left to right straight down. It's like, oh, over here I'm writing this note, and over there I'm going to write that note.
Yeah.
Boxes, circles, stars. um,
Yeah, I'm the same as well.
okay, good, good. Glad that we're on the same
Yeah.
wave. It is a little bit like thought web, isn't it? It's a
Yeah.
little thought webby. You can't quite see, but anyway.
Oh yeah, that's all right. I was going to ask you, Tim, do you have nightmares now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've had
And
some in very recent recollection as early as a couple of nights ago. I was going to make reference to four nightmares. I don't really use the term nightmare anymore because to me it's just a dream. It may have been scary, and when I tell Sarah about them, she's just like, "You dream about stuff like that?" Yeah, all the time.
Would you consider
yeah,
it a bad dream? Or like what, how would you classify your dream?
So for me, when I think of dreams, or especially the dreams I have, because I can't exactly extract dreams out of somebody, but the dreams I have, I believe are more or less correlations and manifestations of things that I think about. I'm very artistic. I like to draw. I'm a little dark with it. So I draw demons and angels and things dying. And so when I dream, sometimes it is just somebody's dying and I'm watching them die or I saw them get shot. And sometimes it's some kind of really weird, malevolent being that is chasing me around.
yeah. And what's the like your physical reaction like when you wake up or during the dream? Are you like scared or is it just you
I
happy
definitely
being
do
in that
still
dream?
feel fear when there's some kind of giant demon that I've created chasing me.
Ones that
Definitely.
you created?
Yeah, I typically there's some kind of adaptation of something I've seen, whether it be a movie or something I've drawn or something I've seen on YouTube. And chasing me is just the thing. I mean, most of the time it's damn near caught me. It's
But and
really
then when you
close,
wake up,
really close, scary close. I can smell your breath close.
Well, my most recent dream this week, I would classify as under normal circumstances a bad dream, but for some reason I didn't wake up in a sweat and all panicky or anything. But we had watched the new Venom movie, and if you've watched the new Venom movie, you know that there are these really giant alien bug-like creatures that you kill them and then they don't actually die. They bring themselves all back together and
Yep, it's a good movie.
um I don't remember all the bits now, but I just remember waking up at the very moment when I was about to be eaten by one.
Yep. That's when you always wake up.
Right at the moment when you're about to be eaten.
Brings me to one point I
Yeah,
want to
I
make
watched
as
all them. Yeah.
I have felt pain in dreams. I have had things, I have felt pain, I have felt pressure, I have felt exhaustion. All these things I have felt in dreams, and I have actually woken up and had residual effects. In one nightmare, I was punched in the face very hard by a very big person, and I woke up instantly and touched my face, and it still hurt for, I swear, a few seconds. In a recent dream, I was trying to get away from something, and I woke up out of the dream, and my legs felt like they had muscle atrophy. They felt tired because I had been running or operating this vehicle to get away, which happened to be a friggin' bicycle. So I was very exhausted from trying to do that. Why I was trying to get away from on a bicycle, I have no idea. But it seemed like a good mode of transportation to get away from the thing at the time.
Yeah, wow. So your dreams are quite vivid then.
Very much so.
And yeah, you can basically talk about them like it's your waking life. That's really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Because lately for me, I can't really I remember snippets during the day, but not as soon as I wake up, I don't remember anything. But I feel myself moving during the night, like I'll kick my leg and I'm like, what's that for? Like or just yeah, and wake up exhausted or still tired or sore in some spots. So yeah, that's interesting that yeah, you
Do you,
remember all of it.
do you think the soreness in some part or in some moments is just from tossing and turning, or do you think it's residual from experiencing that in a dream? And do you think the tiredness is from not, I know this is a double question, but do you think the tiredness is from not having as restful as a sleep because of tossing and turning from a dream?
Valid point.
I think because whatever I've dreamt about, like it's been like a lot's been going on in the dream. And so yeah, I've obviously the pain is related to it and also being tired, not actually sleeping as well.
Mhm.
So yeah. What about you? What do you think, Sarah?
Whew. Yeah, I definitely have had times where I too have been running from things in my dream, and I'll wake up and like literally out of breath because I felt like I was running forever. There's also just the point that's just coming in. Running in your dream, I sometimes wish I had the stamina that I have in a dream as if I had that in
I have the
reality.
complete opposite problem. I find when I'm running in a dream, it always feels like I'm in stomach height water. 100% as fast and as strong as I know my body can be. It feels like I'm always fighting some kind of force that is slowing me down to make sure I'm going to be caught.
So when you have that experience, are you controlling where you run? Is it a like a full-on lucid dream with control?
No, no, it's
Oh, okay.
I need to get the out of here right now. Now, now.
But it feels like you're going in slow-mo.
It feels like I'm running in slow motion, or like I said, it feels like I'm trying to run in chest height water. Like for all the effort I'm putting in, I'm getting one stride. And it felt like it took almost everything I have to get that one full stride away. And in this time, X creature behind me is gaining leaps and bounds.
Hmm.
I always feel like I'm being pulled back. Like it could also be compared to gravity. It feels like I weigh 1,000 pounds and I'm trying to run.
Hmm. Because the
And
only,
it's
oh,
the
sorry.
sorry, it's the worst thing about some of the dreams I have is I know that I'm capable of getting away and running very, very fast, but I'm running like I have lead boots on.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's
But
interesting. Like I've never experienced running or trying to run away from anything. So
no,
that's cool.
yeah.
No.
No, it's not. No, no, it's not.
It's very interesting. And this is, I mean, this is the whole point of our podcast, right? Is because you don't openly talk about your dreams to people. And it's very fascinating how
Talk to you about them all the time.
that's different. Yeah, it's just different how very different people can have very different experiences with their dreams, just like you'd have different experiences in waking life
Very
as
much so.
well. So, um,
Yeah.
To make a good
And
show.
we're making talking about dreams normal. It's gonna be normal.
yeah.
So A
Um,
normal conversation because it should be.
yeah, absolutely. The when you're talking about feeling like, you're running through thick water, like you're it's almost like you're having trouble to control, I guess is really what's happening. It's almost like but you said you don't feel like you're in control of the dream though.
I've only ever lucid dreamed once and wish it would happen more often because it'd be really nice to just be like, okay, you go away now.
Okay, so we talked about this last episode, but you didn't listen to our last episode, so I'll just recap quickly. And I'm not sure if I've actually talked to you about it. The bar for something to be a lucid dream is just that you have to be aware that you're dreaming while you're dreaming. Not
I
that you have full on control. That's
I've had
another.
some instances where I'm like, this is too far-fetched even for me.
Okay. But like when you're running away from things, in that moment you don't realize you're
In that
dreaming,
moment, it's haul ass for lack of a
but you don't know
Yeah.
that you're dreaming.
no.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, then it's not a lucid dream. But I've had lucid dreams where I know I'm dreaming and then I'm like, "Oh, I can do whatever. I can run or I can do something." And it's like it reminds me of what you're describing where it's like you're hard to move and I get the control for a few seconds and then it's gone.
Excuse me.
Do you remember the dream when you lucid dream?
Do I? I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
the very little snippet of the lucid dream before it changed.
yeah.
Because as per usual, people have multiple dreams a night. And I found that it felt like a fraction of a second, really. But I did realize that I was standing there, and what happened was it was just something that I knew was physically impossible. And when it happened, I'm like, that's not real. That can't happen. It literally cannot happen. And for that instant, I was able to control my dream. I want a podcast about dreams, so I'm going to tell you about this one. I was pretty young, so I was the jungle gym climbing champion in my dream. I was about 10 years old.
Awesome.
And it was like a soccer stadium and there was a jungle gym and I had climbed it and I was standing on top of it and I had the trophy and I was the jungle gym climbing champion for about 3 seconds and then it was gone.
So you were able to control the climbing in that dream?
I don't know. It was like an aspiration of being 10.
You were just aware of that you were dreaming, though.
I was very much aware that I was
Yeah,
asleep.
Mhm. Right.
yeah, awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, cool.
Very cool.
Well, so let's bring it back to nightmares, since that's what it's about. And we can talk about other stuff as well. But what do you think nightmares are, like in your opinion?
Mm.
In my opinion, as I said before, nightmares to me are a manifestation of things that have happened through your day, through your month, through your year, through your life, that you are interacting with the negative part of those potential interactions. Whether it be the scary movie you just watched and Freddy Krueger's chasing you down the hall, or you just lost your dog and you're seeing your dead dog. I've done that.
Do you think that nightmares are just basically influenced by, what your environment in your waking life, or do you think that it's playing on your own fears or other things that, some emotion that's tied to it?
So, dabbling into some stuff I don't really have a background in, I do believe for myself that my nightmares are 90% my environment that I put into my mind. I watch a lot of anime, I watch a lot of horror movies. When I was brought up, horror movie was just another movie. Didn't matter if 15 people died in it or they freed a whale. It's just another movie. That's how we were brought up. It's just a movie. So we were watching horror movies at a very young age and I would see these things on TV and I would interact with them in my mind. I do believe that it is at least 90% the world around you and how you perceive it later on at night. But I do believe that our brain is capable of more than we are aware of, and that there might be possible external forces, whether you want to call that soul or if you want to call that some kind of external extra force out there. I don't want to use the term God, but I would say that 90% of it at least is just the world around you and things you think about, like your animal passed away. Of course, you're grieving and stuff like that. Me seeing this animal in my nightmare that was decaying in front of me really, really vividly. It woke me up, and that was the first time I ever woke up in a cold sweat from a dream. I've only ever done it to my knowledge the once, but I've also waken up and been sobbing, like full on crying, and don't know how my body was able to do that via the dream, but I woke up and had already been crying. I
Okay.
do believe that the emotions can transfer from the waking and non-waking state. You take an emotion to bed with you, it translates into your dreams. That translation of emotion from your subconscious can have a perverse effect on the body, to what I believe. Like I said, I've woken up in pain. I've woken up where my muscles felt like I've been running a marathon. Now, I always found that the effects wore off very fast because it's like your mind is like, wait, that wasn't real. So this pain can't be real.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
mind controls every aspect of your body. If it interprets that you were just struck, it interprets that there's going to be pain there. And its receptors are fired to the brain, and it's that simple. If your brain thinks it's real, it's real.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
Like, I know that we talk about dreams, probably on a daily basis, especially more with the podcast.
Probably on a daily basis.
First thing in the morning, it's like, oh, how did you sleep last night? Oh, what did you dream about? I dreamt about this. Like, that's basically everyday conversation.
I don't recall a lot of my dreams. I recall the very profound ones, for lack of a better term.
Right. But
Yeah.
that's just because of substance use.
Yeah, I smoke pot. Substance use. You use that illicit green thing?
Hey, it's legal in Canada.
Exactly.
So.
And yes, I do.
Not here.
um,
With nightmares or even with dreams, this is kind of my interpretation. Is that when you have a nightmare, is it something maybe you need to face within yourself, like something you're not dealing with, that you're not accepting in yourself? And then because we tend to change when we're presented with something stressful, that's when we to change things that we need to change in our life. So if you lose your job, or you have to move house or whatever, that's when we tend to change things in our life for the better. So do you think maybe that's why we have nightmares, to maybe kickstart, give it like kick up the ass to change something in our life?
Well, excuse me. This would bring me to night terrors. I have never experienced it, and I'm not someone that can speak on what night terrors are. I have an old coworker, and I'm not going to name any names because I don't believe that they would want to be on here. But his child goes through night terrors, and he has expressed to me some of the things and the challenges that he has had to go through with this child having night terrors. And I don't wish that upon anybody because it sounds absolutely horrific.
Yeah.
The emotions that I have felt through nightmares and stuff like that, they feel on a nightly basis. And it must be absolutely horrifying, especially for a young mind. I wish I could have that person come on here, and maybe that's a good idea. I don't know if he would actually do it. I feel like the percentage of him doing it is very slim.
but are you done with that?
No, continue. Go ahead.
Because with night terrors, and I might have mentioned this on the podcast, or it might have been just a one-on-one conversation with you, Billy, but your niece
Yes.
also suffers from night terrors and
Sleepwalks and
sleepwalks. Will go into a room that's not hers in the middle of the night and flick on the light, and so there's sleepwalking, but there is a night terror. She's doing these situations because she's scared.
yes.
And what had happened over Christmas was the first 2 nights, I think she had night terrors.
Yep.
And me and your mom spoke about it, and we talked about how, your experiences or your emotions throughout the day can tie over into your dream world. And so your mom worked really hard to like put positive
Reinforcement.
reinforcement, affirmations, just getting her to focus on positive things. And that night she didn't have any night terrors. Yeah, so just a instance of, not saying that, it might be different for you. I don't actually
Could be
know
different
any.
for everybody. I mean, I feel like a positive reinforcement is always good in a child's life, and it could potentially help with the night terrors. But this is something I don't really know about, and something that I don't really want to touch on too much because it is not in my own experience.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fine. Yeah. And then that's where you just talk about your own experiences,
Precisely.
because then you can really relate to it as well. So yeah.
I want to circle back a little bit where you talked about 90% of dreams come from kind of the environment and your experiences throughout the day. And I think that resonates with me a little bit because definitely some of my most recent dreams, I'm like, oh, well, that's because I watched that movie, or that's because I spoke to this person, or, different things like that. But then you said the 10% is from some external forces. So would you say there's about 10% of the dream, 10% of a dream we can't actually explain where it comes from?
I think that's a pretty good percentile. I mean, I have had dreams that have been in very familiar surroundings, I knew everybody, but I've also had dreams where I do not recognize the place at all. I do not recognize a single person. I don't know who this person is following me around, but it seems like we're in a relationship or something. I recognize none, absolutely nothing.
Do you believe in past lives?
That's not nightmares. Unless your past life was, really bad.
Yeah. Well,
And the further you go back, the worse it gets.
well, I
Yeah.
guess we're
I just asked that just so, like, when you're talking about your dreams, is it like, are you thinking it might be a past life, or you could be, yeah, different types of dreams? Yeah.
Honestly, it definitely could be. It could be some kind of perception of uh somewhere else my soul has existed. If you believe in a soul, that's another conversation, so don't get started.
Fine.
Sure, I believe there's absolutely potential for that. It's something that I've seen way before this existence. It's definitely possible, probable. Let's not go there.
Yeah. I always used to think when I was younger, and we'll get back to our topic, but I always used to think, like, after he dies, that it? Like, nothing after that, nothing was before that. To me, it just didn't sit right. I was just like, would ponder that for a while, and I've come to the conclusion that's not all. I think there's more, because yeah, I don't know. That's just where I'm at. But yeah, we're allowed to have different opinions. That's why I like
Absolutely.
getting different people on. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. Do you have
I
anything to add, Sarah?
personally believe that there's nothing after this. There's nothing before this. This is it. Until
Okay.
proven otherwise. You give me proof of a soul, extraterrestrial, pretty much anything paranormal, and I'm going to go 180 on you. I'm going to be right there with you.
But you need the physical
But
proof.
I like to think as myself as a logical person, and I like hard evidence. If ET comes down and shakes my hand, I also believe in math. And the chances that we are the only beings that happen to exist on a planet in this galaxy universe, almost 0% chance that we are the only beings. But that's getting into
Well, that's good.
Goldilocks
Yeah. Cool.
zones and numbers and stuff, and we're talking about nightmares.
Yes.
But we drift a little in this podcast, and then we come back, and
The difference between
Well,
my mind and
everything's
Saturn is a real distance.
but everything's connected, so it's hard to just talk about one thing, because everything is
Absolutely.
connected.
We
Yeah,
are
like,
all
so
atoms. Everything exists is made up of atoms and energy. And
we'll go back to nightmares in 1 second, but I'm
uh-oh.
just going to say this.
We're going to Pluto now.
Well, you're asking for physical proof, basically, of a soul or extraterrestrial. But what if those things are not physical? Then how can you have physical proof?
So now we're talking about extra dimension and
Other dimensions, it's metaphysical, that kind of thing.
So existing outside of my realm of perception means you don't exist.
Really? I can't see all the individual atoms, and you have 13 trillion cells in your body made up of a whole bunch of atoms, and I can't see them.
Thank you, doctor.
You're welcome.
And that's the great thing about learning and expanding your own awareness is like that's your truth at the moment. It could change,
Absolutely.
like
Truth's changing
everyone.
all the
So
time.
yeah.
So,
So
and
that's
getting
that's a
back,
good attitude to have, that you're until you've proven
oh,
otherwise,
I'm
you're
open.
like, this is it. Yeah, yeah, like
Getting
that.
back to the you can't see the atoms. Yes, we can. It's called a microscope.
Right, but they're out of our perception. We have to have a tool that's. So you're saying we have to develop a machine that.
Show me the soul machine. Show it to me. I'll be right there to shake your hand, give you the Nobel Prize, and change the entire way we look at things.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
quantum
Till
computing.
then, I'm going to stick with numbers. Thanks.
That's what quantum computing is going to do for us. So we're getting there.
Yeah.
You're going to need an ocean
What
to cool the thing.
Okay, well,
we've
but
talked. Oh, you go. You go. Okay.
I was just
Sorry.
gonna say regular computers were like the size of the room when they first developed, and now they're like fit in a little tiny block. So
Just a point.
yeah. Anyway, back to dreams, nightmares, anything that's related to dream oracle, like dreams.
Yeah. Do you believe intention's important in your life?
I believe intention and wanting good for other people and stuff like that is very important. But I don't believe it has to do anything with the dreams that I see. I want
Okay.
good for my best friend, but I've seen him get shot in the face,
But like, what about like
and I definitely don't want to see that.
when you go to sleep?
Yeah, no, that's
If you were like, I want to dream about this, or I want to learn this thing about myself, do you think that that will impact your dream?
I would like to believe that I can set a textbook underneath my pillow and focus on it and learn the whole test in one day, if that's what you're asking. Do I believe it works? No, I believe those guys fail.
Have you ever tried like just setting an intention, like I want to, I don't know, if you've got something you want to expand on in your life, even just being aware of something, if you were to set an intention and go to sleep, maybe dream about it and come up, you might not have the answer the next day, but you will have some sort of extra awareness that might gradually seep into your consciousness. Do you think that's possible? Like
If it
learning, it's
is,
just
I'm going
like
to start
learning any
focusing on the
skill.
lotto numbers.
Um, well, what about
Because we
when
talk about that a lot. So
yeah, intention comes up a lot in this podcast, but maybe we could bring that to a little bit more tangible as opposed to intention, like, I want to learn this particular thing or about myself, whatever. What about the phrase sleep on it? You got a big decision. I mean, I know we didn't sleep on it about our purchasing the house right now, but in general, a big life decision before thank you. Before you make a decision, you're like, okay, we'll sleep on it. And so you in that moment, I see that as you're setting an intention to while you're sleeping, your brain is going to be thinking about the decision. No, your subconscious is not going to be thinking about the decision. Then you wake up and like, okay,
Your subconscious is thinking about that big piece of pie you saw, or to
it's not
me,
thinking about
the
life things.
you should sleep on it is when you wake up the next day, you'll be in a clearer state of mind. You'll have had some time to think about it consciously,
Not
and
subconscious.
in that moment, you'll be able to make a clearer decision instead of being spontaneous about buying a house. Which I really like the house, though. It's really nice.
yeah, so do I. It's cool.
Yeah, Biljana said she's gonna visit.
Oh, cool. You can see
No,
my
if you got a spare room, I'll move in.
We have a lot of spare rooms.
Very cool. Yeah,
I
no,
do
that's
not
that's
believe that.
fair. That's
Oh,
fair.
sorry.
No, no, you go. I was just gonna say that's fair, like your comment about intention and all that. Yeah.
I do not believe that focusing on something. Now, I've never really had any experiments with this. Maybe I'll try it. But I think about the exact same thing every night when I go to sleep. It changes every few years. Something new happens, and I think about that. And it's very, very trivial. It's usually like some kind of scene out of an anime or something like that, something I've watched. Or I put myself in that scenario and I'm the sword-toting magician or something like that, and I focus on that and I go to sleep. Now, do I think that dictates whether I have a good dream or bad dream? I do not.
Hmm. And you've never dreamed
Have you
in.
ever had reoccurring nightmares?
I have.
Yep. Did they make sense or are
Three.
they still weird and wacky?
It only happened once in my life. It recurred for about a week, 4 or 5 days. It was the same thing. And I've also had dreams where I picked up where I left off,
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
which are even scarier.
If the dream is scary.
Yes.
If the dream's not scary,
Well, if the dream's happy, then hopefully when you come back into the dream, it's going to be happy. My dreams usually aren't that happy, unfortunately. My waking life is very happy. I'm a very flamboyant person. I like to have fun. Flamboyant wasn't the right word there. I'm
that's why I was like, what?
going to scratch that one. I'm very happy-go-lucky.
Yes.
I like to joke, but my
Yes.
dreams are typically the opposite. They're very painful. I've seen some really body dismemberment, people getting chopped up. You name it, I've pretty much seen it in a dream.
Yeah, wow.
So
Okay.
you don't watch nightmares on a daily basis, or nightmares. You don't watch horror movies on a daily basis. You don't watch people getting chopped up on a daily basis or being shot or anything along those lines. You did say that 90% of the dreams come from the environment and 10% is kind of the unexplained. Why do you think that you dream such dark things all the time? Because you're not a dark person, at least I should hope not.
You sure?
Oh, she should have seen the red flags a long time ago.
Maybe she's just like you.
I may not watch all these horror movies as much as I used to because before I got into a relationship with the softie over here, you are Twister scares this one. The movie Twister.
I have watched scary movies in my time, okay? And at some point I stopped because they were too scary.
I had watched more scary movies by the time I was 10 than she's watched in her whole life.
But I've watched
I
the
think
hardcore
Saw's my
ones. I've
extent.
watched Silence of the Lambs and Saw, Jeepers Creepers,
And she obviously doesn't know what a hardcore horror
and
movie
Freddy versus
is.
Jason.
Yeah, because there's a hardcore. They smoke pot in that movie. The two bad guys smoke pot. That's hardcore. You come to me and
I've
you,
watched, what was it, the zombie, the one with, was it Rob White or something, did a zombie?
Rob Zombie,
Rob Zombie, that's the guy.
House of a Thousand Corpses.
That's the one.
That's getting up there. That's better, I will say.
But it was like when I was like 12 or 13.
Anna, have you ever watched The Thing?
No, not planning to either.
Good movie.
No,
This
thanks.
one wouldn't sleep for the rest of her life.
Well, I haven't watched it. The only time horror movies are allowed to happen in this household is if I'm not here.
And that's when I watched them.
Yeah. Like I said, Saw for me was enough. I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah, Saw was pretty intense. I almost didn't watch it, but I was like turning 17, 18, and my friend wanted to watch it, and I like, didn't want to be the chicken shit. So
I'd consider Saw like a 5 or a 6.
You're tough, aren't you?
pretty gory though.
No, I just have watched a higher level of horror movie, apparently.
You're high tolerance.
So bringing back to the
Yeah.
question, you don't appear to be a dark person in your waking life. Why do you have such a dark dream world?
I believe that my outlook for things could be a little darker than most. Although most of my dreams are some sort of malevolent being. I've had some pretty far out there ones. Everything from like this fat white demon looking thing, but it was only about yay big, but it was also able to follow me anywhere, shift and phase through anything. And no matter how much I changed where I was, it was there again. Um, forgive me. I have had basically every alien you can think of in one way, shape, or form. Now, of course, they don't look like the aliens you see on TV because, uh, being the person that I am, I change them to my own liking, if you will. Even though it is a creation of my mind, it is still hunting me down. And I am completely aware that its only goal is to get me or get the person that I'm trying to protect. And that does happen a lot too.
Who are you trying to
Yeah.
protect?
Recently, you.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's so nice. I want to ask you about the recurring dream. Do you remember like when you had it and then what your life was like at the time?
I was a young teenager. I would say I was about 14 or 15. I was living at my parents' house. I had a room that was one of the smaller rooms in the house. It was completely painted from head to toe. My mother's a very good artist as well. She painted all the walls and the where the wild things are. All the characters from where the wild things are were painted on the walls. The walls looked like a forest. And I was sleeping in my car bed. And yes, I had a race car bed. I'm proud of it.
How old are
I was 14.
you?
I didn't get a big boy bed till I was like 16 or 7.
Um,
And how were you at the time, like your mental state, I guess?
I would have very much been into Magic cards and Dragon Ball and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And but once again, I've been watching horror movies since a very young age, and I do believe that does play a big part on how big a variety of dark presences I see in my
so
dreams.
Dragon Ball Z caused you to have nightmares?
Probably not. I was
What
just
was
giving a
school like at that
time.
time?
Pardon me?
What was school like at that time?
I was definitely still in the nerdy crowd. I would have been hanging out with the Magic players and stuff like that. This would have been just on the cusp of me becoming kind of a cool kid. And by saying cool kid, I mean I started smoking dope and started smoking cigarettes. I was drinking. So that kind of cool kid.
Well,
The perceived cool kid.
Exactly.
I feel like I did nothing when I was younger. It looks like you've been experiencing life from a very young age.
I grew up on an island as big as this cul-de-sac. I had to make my own experiences. Thus why I have a very vivid imagination.
Yeah, okay.
And that is what I do blame a lot of my nightmares on. I am able to see just about anything I want in my mind. I can mold it, I can turn it around, I can spin it, I can make it do anything I want. So I can perceive these things in my waking days. Imagine what I can perceive in my non-waking days, where my mind, although they say is not as active, is way more active, way more active, creating worlds, scary ones.
But why scary? Why not create something nice?
I guess it is once again on my outlook, my perception. I don't believe that the world is a nice place. I believe the world is a scary place.
But if everybody were I'm just trying to think of this. If everybody was creating these scary worlds, the world would be a scary place. But if people would create good worlds and everybody focused on creating what they would like to have instead of what it actually is, wouldn't that
I
change things?
assure you, if I could make my dreams daffodils and rainbows and little duckies and bunnies and stuff like that, I bloody well would. I'd be sitting on a pile of money smoking the biggest cohiba you've ever seen every night. But it's just the reality is that my perception of things and the outlook of things and the media that I put into my subconscious, whether it be Attack on Titan or if it's the latest Freddy movie, which they're on like 30 of those things, or if it's the latest action movie and someone's getting blown apart, it's just adding more and more depth and detail into what my mind can perceive. When I see, good instance is Deadpool, and you see the guy in Deadpool that smacks up against the sign and just smushes this person. Well, now in my mind, I know what that looks like, and now I can do that. I have had dreams where I was in fights and I was Bruce Lee. I was kicking some butt. I was just throwing people and felt like I was way stronger than I should be and just kicking people's butts left, right, and center. But that is very far and few in between. More recently, I've had a dream where, for some reason, a vehicle come in, looked like something out of a war movie, an armored vehicle come in with a very odd-looking gun. And being the person that I am, I study guns. I have many books on guns. I should know exactly what this weapon looked like. And it looked nothing like it. It looked like something out of Mad Max, but it was on a vehicle that looked like it should have been something out of Modern Warfare. Modern Warfare, not the game, like today. Anyway, and in that dream, we were running because they started shooting at us, and I watched one of my best friends take it in the dome and watched his brains hit the wall and ran for my life, trying to corral other people around the building.
Yeah, wow.
That's
That's
the
so
kind of
much
stuff I see.
detail. Wow.
I can tell you what the vehicle looked like. I can tell you what the color of the brick wall we were by. Scary detail.
And why do you
Yeah,
think?
wow. Yeah, so when I dream now, like I used to have a lot of nightmares up until I was about 25. And and to me, I put that down to like I was quite stressed up until then in my life. So dealing with a lot of trauma, I suppose, from my childhood and then even a stressful job. I used to do rock climbing and, bushwalking and canoeing, that sort of stuff. So taking school kids out. So that was quite stressful at times, making sure the kids are safe. So I would have dreams of like, kids up on the rope and then the rope would snap or the rope would swing around. It was quite stressful. But as soon as I left that job, those dreams stopped. So I think that was, it was showing me like I needed to get out of that because it wasn't for me, that job. Um,
And it also,
so yeah,
what's standing out for me there with your description, Biljana, is you had an inherent fear that something would go wrong in this job and that you were responsible for the safety of all these kids. And so,
Your mind made that fear real.
exactly. So, do you have fears? Is that what your mind is doing with all of these things?
I am very afraid some really scary alien species is going to come down and eat us. Yes.
I don't know if that's serious or not.
do you have fears though?
Of course, I have fears. I'm human. To say that you don't
Yeah,
have fears as a human is an outright lie. I fear for my family. I fear for Sarah's well-being. I fear for people's mental health. I fear for many of things. I don't fear these monsters. I really don't in my dreams. I
yeah,
am more intrigued now as an adult of what my mind can create. Like, man, that would make an awesome horror movie.
Yeah.
And I've had perceptions like that. I've actually honestly woke up and like, man, I should write this down because that would have made a kick-ass horror movie. Like that would be a rated R horror movie and everybody would be losing their shit scared.
Maybe that's what you're meant to do.
yeah.
Maybe you're meant to write some movie script.
The next R.L. Stein. That was kid stuff though.
Yeah, yeah. Um, oh man, I had a point and you said that you don't fear the monsters, but something that we talk about on this podcast quite a bit is symbols, that your subconscious uses symbols to represent certain emotions or certain things in your life. So, yes, you have these monsters in your dream and you're not like actually afraid of these monsters. But do you think that these monsters could be the embodiment of something else that you're fearing in your life?
Absolutely. That could be what's the word I'm looking for? Some kind of symbol as to something that I fear. Absolutely. As it manifesting itself in some weird ways? Yeah, definitely. But like I fear the loss of my mother's life. but I don't really dream of my mother dying. Now, don't get me wrong, I have, and I called her at 3 a.m. and she assured me she was still alive. I don't believe that my inner conscious is embodying my fears into these monsters to attack me. I'm, lack of a better term, not that symbolic.
Well, you
Yeah.
don't know.
Maybe I am. I believe dreams for me are kind of letting my mind wander into what it would like to see, and how it tortures me with it is just my mind's perception of how a horror movie normally works out. There's a monster, it's chasing you. That's pretty much the plot. It never catches me, and when it gets close enough to catch me, I wake up.
But like to contrast, like my dream last night was not at all horror at all. It was more, to make it very brief, it was like I had an interaction with somebody where I didn't quite agree with what the situation was. So I like took them aside and was having a conversation. So it was almost like my brain playing out a situation and how to address everyday conversations or everyday situations.
Something else I find in these dreams is I'm trying to find a way to protect myself
Hmm.
or protect the people I'm with. Sometimes it's a sword, sometimes it's a spear, a lot of times it's a gun, and then something will happen with said. For instance, the gun will jam. I'll go to fire my first round and click, click, click. Oh, bullets are really good. Bullets make a gun work. Or I will go to fire the gun, it will jam and it will not dislodge the bullet. It's jammed beyond the point of using it. For some reason, I still carry it around. It's basically a glorified paperweight at this point in time, but it's some kind of symbol of me trying to protect myself or what I am trying to protect, whether it be another person.
But with it, the gun jamming, do you think that that is actually a fear of
Well,
not being able to fulfill your protection in waking life?
I wish I'd start finding a sword because they don't jam very often. But when I was younger, I had a nightmare. Once again, this took place in my grandmother's house, and it was very where the wild things are because not only was it my grandmother's house, but it was also a forest in fall. And I was the knight in shining armor. I was literally in armor. It was really cool looking, by the way. And I was protecting the princess. There was five of us, like the band of merry thieves protecting the princess. And she was behind me. She was all white, like straight out of um, Never Ending Story. And slowly through these woods, zombies started coming. And of course, pull out the sword and we start hacking zombies down, and they're going left and right. And the merry men are killing zombies. And in one point, a child started walking up, and it was a child zombie. Now, the child didn't look very decayed, just looked pale, like very blonde hair, but still pretty obviously dead. And as she got closer and closer, the princess was telling me, "Oh, you can't kill her, you can't kill her." And I'm trying to get it through, like if she gets any closer, I'm gonna have to do something. And the little girl zombie took another lurch forward, and as soon as she did, I pulled a knife out of another zombie that was dead in front of me, and I jammed it down through her head. And she dropped over. And as soon as I did that, everything in the dream changed. The merry men were gone. The princess was no longer behind me. She was down a hall in my grandmother's house to this day, and she had been captured by the biggest, evilest zombie you ever done seen. And he was pushing her around on the floor in a pool of her own blood, and her white dress had become primarily red.
Dreams are very gory.
Yeah, that's not.
How old were you with that dream?
I was probably in my late teens when that happened.
Wow, and you still remember that.
It's funny
Quite
you bring up.
amazing.
I'll never forget.
It's interesting you bring up that he still remembers it, because one of the notes I had written while you're talking about all of your various dreams is
Yes.
your dream recall and memory is very, very well developed, I guess is a way to say that.
My
Do you
re-
write your dreams down?
no,
No. Okay.
This is all
Wow.
from memory.
this is all from memory.
Must have left an impact on you then. So for
Remember
you to
another
remember
dream where
that.
I was trapped in a house with a group of boys and girls. We were teenage, maybe, I don't know, 17 or 18. And this house was just very elaborate. Once again, it felt like we were trying to get away from something. I'm always trying to get away from something. And we were just trying to figure out how to get to the next room in this house, kind of like an escape room, which I've never done. Now, down on Rhode Island, there's a lot of old houses. Some of them do actually have little secret passageways where you could go from room to room, like little crawl spaces where you could go from room to room. And that's what we were all using to travel between these rooms. We never really used the door. We went through these little crawl spaces. And we were always just trying to hurry the next person through because we're just trying to get out of that room to put some distance between us and whatever is trying to get us. It's always something, it seems. Not always do I see them. Sometimes I can just feel like there's something behind that door. I need to go that way.
Hmm.
Sometimes it does have a physical form. Sometimes it's multiple forms. I'll remember a dream where, once again, it was a dream where something had happened and I was basically trapped in this big house again. Do believe it was my grandmother's house. And I know I mentioned my grandmother's house a lot, and I swear nothing happened in my grandmother's house. I never had any trauma or anything. It was
Well,
actually a very loving place,
I'm
but it was a
gonna
very familiar place. I know that house inside and out. I know every board.
can I stop you for a second?
Please.
I At the very beginning of the episode, I actually wrote down a note for grandmother's house,
Mhm.
and I wrote next to it safe place. So I sometimes you dream, I find that you dream about places in your dreams that are like a safe haven, somewhere that you feel
It was very familiar to me.
familiar.
Yeah,
That's,
that's quite
I don't believe it
interesting.
was a
Yeah.
safe place because I've had a lot of nightmares in there. It's very unsafe,
Yeah.
actually, but it's very
Yeah.
familiar to me.
Yeah. Do you dream about, Sarah, do you dream about the same place, like similar to Tim? Because I don't.
It has evolved in my lifetime. Um, in the past, I used to dream about my childhood house quite a lot. And then sometimes it would be like a combination of like my childhood house and my grandmother's house and whatnot. But me personally, I feel that oftentimes the place where you are in a dream, it's because perhaps the thing that you have to work on was from that time, you know. So if I'm dreaming about my childhood house, then there's probably something that happened in my childhood that I need to address and come to terms with,
Yeah.
or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because I dream about places I've never been before, so it's quite interesting. You're talking about, familiar places. Maybe when I was younger, I dreamt about my childhood house, but now it's just random places, parks and you know cabins and just different locations I've never been before. So
So are these your
it's
dreams or your nightmares?
there's some of both.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So the places that I have nightmares are places I've never been before,
So I've
generally.
had that
Yeah,
exact same experience. I have had nightmares in places that are very unfamiliar.
yeah.
I do find there
Well,
is some aspects that are familiar, like, but they could be just familiar to you from art or like I dream that I'm in a field a lot. Never owned a field, never really been in a field for any extended period of time, but
yeah,
Sometimes,
okay.
sometimes, I mean, this is if you were to look up different places in like a dream interpretation book, they'll often say that the place where you are reflects something about yourself, whether that's like, trying to think of an example. I think we talked about this in one of our episodes. where like if you had like spider webs on a ceiling or something, that can like represent like cloudiness of the brain, or like a fog, like a head fog or something along those lines. And when you said that you're always in a field, the word that came to my mind was open,
Mm.
because a field is nice and open, and so maybe you're open to, well, I don't know, you said you were a very open person to
Lots of
like
room to run.
lots of room to run from scary things. And it's not like it's always a field. It's not like there's a maze in the middle of it.
Nope, it's usually an open field. I've had dreams where it changes. Like one moment I'll be in a field, next moment I'll be in a city, next moment I'll be in a house I can't explain, never seen before. They're usually very old and Victorian.
Mm. Have you ever given any thought as to why you dreamt a particular thing, or is it always just, oh, that was a nice video I just watched kind of thing? Or maybe that was a scary
I
movie I
can
just watched?
I can definitely put bits and pieces of things together, like, oh, I saw this rat in there because I watched the Ninja Turtle movie. Sure.
Mhm. That would be the 90%, but what about the 10%?
Um, like I'd like to say that I recognize things as being familiar to me and comfort things, but normally it's not. There's nothing comforting. There's me either trying to get where I'm trying to go away from this thing, or I am trying to get something to fend this thing off. And sometimes the dreams go longer than that. Sometimes I have accomplished getting the thing to try to fend it off, and I'm either trying to hunt it or I'm trying to let it hunt me, or trying to get to the conclusion of the scary movie, if you will.
What percentage of, I know that you currently don't always remember your dreams, but of the dreams that you do have, what is the ratio, the percentage of that are bad dreams, nightmares where you're chasing these monsters are chasing you, these crazy things that are happening, versus a more happy-go-lucky, pleasant dream? What's the ratio?
Um, I mean, knowing that the average person dreams about 10 different dreams a night, I would say that at least one of my 10 is scary.
But do you remember all 10?
No, I remember the scary one
You only remember the scary ones.
90% of the time.
Do you remember any of the happy ones?
Not nearly as many.
Hmm.
Not even a fraction of it.
Hmm. Hmm. What do you think of that, Biljana?
Well, I suppose it's like I was saying about our instinct, like when something stressful happens, that's when we're like kicked into um, dealing with something. So I suppose that just you react more when you're in that heightened state, I guess, when you kind of it's a bit blasé and casual. It's something you don't remember or connect with as much, maybe. I don't know. So like if I was to dream about, I was having coffee with someone down the street and it was like nothing eventful happening,
Mm.
would I remember it? Because it's not exciting. But if I dreamt about something, like your dreams, Tim, it'd be more memorable and maybe I'll wake up remembering it, more likely to remember it. Does that make sense?
Very much for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does make sense, but for me, like at the moment, my dreams, I rarely have fearful or these bad type dreams. And like last night, one of my dreams was I had at least three different ones, and we might talk in more depth in a different episode. But one of them in particular was I happened to be walking along and bumped into my mom's boyfriend's sister and her husband. And they're like, oh, we want help like understanding this letter and this email about this car that we want to refinance. It's just like the most, boring, mundane thing ever, right? But I remember all the detail, and I remember giving her a hug at the end of it because I haven't seen her in a while. And I remember that she had like white cat hair all over her clothes. I guess she likes cats or something. And then I walked away. I remember having to tie my shoe because my shoe was untied. Like, come on, this is really boring stuff.
I need more
especially
dreams like that.
especially in contrast to this, right? But I will tell you the kicker, and something that I there when I remember dreams, I feel that it's because there's something that I'm meant to pick up in the dream, something I'm supposed to reflect on. And so there's that part of the dream. While I was tying my shoe, I was having thoughts go through my head in my dream. And one of them was I just happened to think about all the time I had spent with like my grandmother growing up, and I didn't always spend as much time with my mom, and my mom's now since passed on. So when I woke up, I felt like there's a little bit of guilt in me for having spent more time with my grandmother as opposed to my mom. And that was like, those thoughts were happening in my dream, and then I woke up and reflected on it. So I do believe that if you pay attention and decode your dreams, there can be things that'll help, because if I'm holding on to guilt, then that's affecting me as a person deep down. So my dream brought that to my awareness, and now that's something that I can address because I don't need to feel guilty about it. It was what it was. I can't change it.
Not to take away
Yeah.
from what you're saying or anything, but I think my takeaway is I need to learn how to run faster.
Maybe you need to work out and go to the gym.
Yeah, that's it. Get that cardio game on.
Yeah, well, okay. I resonate what you say, Sarah, with what you were saying. Yeah, I definitely, the dreams that I've remembered lately, there's always something that I need to know the next day. And I always go to bed like with an intention anyway. And but I always wake up changed, like I feel different. Like something so profound has happened in my dream that I've woken up and I can just feel there's something different about me. I can't explain it. So yeah, so I've got different outlook, I suppose. And I don't really have nightmares anymore. So it's more just trying to unlock everything. So
The
yeah.
what came through me with the explaining, and we actually mentioned that we were going to talk about a little bit about this in the podcast tonight, is that you're like, and this is why you are such an anomaly to this conversation, though, but how you are in your waking very much ties over to how you are in your dream state. And when you say that, you go to bed and you wake up and you feel refreshed and like something profound happened, and that's because the experiences you're having in your dream is part of your growth as a person. It is part of who you are as an individual. It's kind of like me last night in basically giving advice to somebody. Somebody's scared. Me giving advice to someone. Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on with you. We're Biljana and I are going to have to start decoding some of what's been going on here, because I do believe that whatever is going on here, there is an underlying reason. I don't know what the reason is.
I have demons.
Maybe you have a demon. Who knows? Um, Possible. That could be that 10% of the
Yeah,
unknown.
you can just be open to whatever. You don't have to understand it right now or even want to, but be open to if something comes through or you get an
You picked a
insight.
really shitty host.
Why?
Why are you going to possess me? Go possess somebody powerful and rich.
Why powerful and rich?
Well, it's easier to manipulate the world then. You think a demon would have ulterior motives besides, let's go fuck with Timothy's day?
Well, what if you've had the
Yeah,
demon
why
for a
not?
long time? Like,
My past life sucked then.
I didn't necessarily from a past life, I just meant from a young age. Anyway.
Oh,
Love you, Cup. So good.
Yeah, caffeine. I don't drink caffeine, but I drink out of a caffeine vessel.
it's subliminal.
Probably. We talk about how intention, right? So I'm getting the feel of caffeine. My body is like, oh, she's drinking caffeine, but I'm not actually drinking
I got the chemical compound right on the cup, but there's none in there.
it.
Is there anything either of you want to add about nightmares or dreams or anything?
I would say in closing on my aspect of things that I do not interpret dreams as being an internal force. I believe that it is 90% your external world and things that you see in your own mind. Is there some unexplainable in there? Absolutely. I cannot explain why I'm seeing this particular entity or this particular person, people I've never seen before, that are literally just made up by my own mind. Um, my mind makes up some really flawed people. But I don't think that you should, when you wake up from a dream, that you necessarily need to ponder on it for months and years at a time. Just because I do recall my dreams in vivid detail doesn't mean that I let them bother my day to day. If I get up tomorrow and I've had a really bad dream tonight, I'd be like, oh, well, that was different. I wonder why he wanted to do that to my face.
That's a really good point. That's even like when you're awake and as shitty situations happen to you, sometimes it's the worst thing to do is ponder on it for too much. Like it, maybe it's just a situation that you just have to deal with and let it go, or maybe down the track deal with it. But yeah, same with the dream. So that's cool. Good advice.
This actually ties into a little Instagram meme, not really meme, but a little reel or something I saw very recently. And yes, I indulged and scrolled a little on Instagram. But it said that this guy was like the chillest guy ever. And so it had this it had this guy walk down the street and a truck drove by and splashed him with water. And so he was just dripping wet. And he was getting all upset and very frustrated. And then he walked by this guy who was just sitting at the side of the curb, and he was all drenched as well, so he had just gotten splashed by the same truck, drinking a beer and just having the best time of his life. And the guy who was freaking out was like, why are you not freaking out? This guy is such an asshole, he just purposely splashed us with water. And the guy said, well, he's like, you have over 3,000 minutes in a day. Why are you going to let 1 minute ruin the other 3,000?
I like that.
Yeah. So that's
Mm.
what this just reminded me of.
That's
Yeah,
a
cool.
good point.
Yeah. So don't ponder your nightmares, I guess, would be a take home.
Don't dwell on them.
Don't dwell on them. If there is something to learn and gain from it, get that and move on. But otherwise, sometimes dreams are just dreams. We like to think that they're a little bit more and there is meaning behind them and you can learn and grow from them. But sometimes dreams are just dreams. So don't let the bad ones get your whole day down. You know.
And don't let the good ones influence you completely.
What do you mean by that?
Well, like if you just live your life based on your dreams and not just your when you're awake is you're dealing with the everyday life. If you're just making decisions from your dreams, it's like taking advice from always from someone else and not having your own insight, your own opinions, basically. Relying on something else to make decisions for you, I guess.
Yeah. No, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a
Staying
good,
neutral, basically.
absolutely. Yeah.
Anna, it's been a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Very entertaining.
I try.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna wrap up, but while we were doing the mic check earlier, we were just having a complete hoot and laughing with each other. I was like, oh my gosh, we should have a podcast where we just stare at the camera like the first couple do, like record a podcast like that. Anyway, thank you all to our listeners for being here tonight. We hope that you enjoyed tonight's episode. It's very different than some of the other episodes we've done, but we like to bring all perspectives to the table, and we're definitely enjoying having more and more guests on our show. That is kind of the goal for 2025 is to bring more people to you to talk about dreams, not just have Biljana and I ramble on about all the things that we like. We want to hear from you. So if you'd like to see something on the podcast that you'd like us to talk about, if you'd like to have your dreams interpreted, you can reach out to us at dreamoracleforyou.com at gmail.com, and that is the number 4 and the letter U. You can find us on Instagram, on Telegram. We're on YouTube and Spotify. And we hope you all enjoyed today's episode. We definitely had a lot of fun recording it. And please, everyone, keep on dreaming.
Hi, Mom.